Hello, I'm Tyler Patterson. I'm the founder and president of Ever Accountable. And this is Brant Cole. He's an Ever Accountable customer and a pastor of a church in Michigan. He has boldly shared his testimony of porn recovery publicly. He's put in hundreds of hours of work documenting what worked for him and is now helping others to recover. That's by focusing on the person you want to become. He's also built out his own porn recovery coaching program called Revive Your Life, where he's currently hands-on as a porn coach, helping men to recover. Welcome, Brant, and could you tell us a little bit about your journey?
Yeah, totally. Thanks for having me on here, Tyler. It's just an absolute privilege, and I was really excited to jump onto this conversation because back in 2016, after literally so many years of trying different methods, different programs of quitting porn throughout my life, I was caught watching porn while at work as a pastor. At this point in my life, I was married. I was about to become a father. I was a pastor, like I said, and so I had to admit the sobering reality that nothing had changed in my life. Even though I had subscribed to a lot of things at different points in my life, nothing had changed because nothing had really changed about how I was living my life. I realized it was time to make a change. Initially, my senior pastor called me into his office, and I knew I could have been fired because he got my report and it was emailed to him. And instead of firing me, he connected me with a counselor. That set me on the journey of true and holistic recovery, dealing with all of who I am, my brain, reviving my body, restoring my relationships with God and my significant relationships in my life. And I think even renewing the vision that I had or the relationship I had with myself, I started to really revive my life. Eventually, I found a program that really helped me finally quit porn for good. Over time, I became not just an accountability group leader in that, but I became a coach in that program. I started coaching hundreds of people. It got to a point where some of the things I've discovered were different enough that it was worth launching out and starting Revive Recovery on my own. I'm passionate about people who are looking to truly not just quit porn from their life, but build a life that is so fulfilling that porn doesn't actually solve anything for them anymore. I think a lot of times what happens is we don't realize this, but we go to porn, we go to masturbation to meet a deeper need under the surface. There's actually deeper issues going on at the heart level that I think a lot of people aren't quite conscious of. And porn feels good in the moment. It's fun initially. You think, oh man, this isn't going to hurt anybody. I'm doing it by myself. I'm keeping it secret. Over time, what you realize is it's meeting a need in such a terrible, destructive, abusive way in your own heart. In order to get free from that, you can't just set up restrictions and say, okay, I'm going to stop. I'm going to white knuckle. I'm going to use willpower to get out. Because what's happening is there's something deeper yearning for that connection, that sense of nurture, that sense of attention, that feeling of excitement in relationship. And your brain thinks it's a real relationship. You look at what neuroscience teaches us about how we've got these mirror neurons that imagine ourselves in that scene. Your brain's not separating that out and going like, oh, that's not the same as a real relationship. Like neurologically speaking, you think you're in that moment. When you go to quit porn, it's almost like your brain is on shock from not having a regular, controllable source of clickable love, so to speak. So when you go to try to quit, your brain's like, I need to survive. I need to survive. I'm going to die. Being deprived of this source of love in my life. Recovering from a porn addiction is much more about rebuilding and reviving your life and building a life that's so fulfilling in all of the areas that need to be met, so that when porn comes along and starts knocking on the door and says, hey, remember me? I'm here to solve that problem again. That's deeper under the surface. You're like, oh, you know what? I think I'm good. I've actually found something that's truly fulfilling and life-giving in my life. I don't think I need you anymore. Certainly, porn blockers and accountability software and accountability partners, like all these things are very important. But it's just part of the process. What I discovered was I was just relying on one simple tool, one method. I call it the Simplistic Method. I tried this, didn't seem to work. So I tried this and it didn't seem to work. And I was just trying one thing at a time. When I finally got freedom, I realized, oh, it's actually about combining all of that together to really holistically approach true life of freedom and confidence.
That's beautiful. I love what you said about your life has changed for the better so much that you don't need porn anymore. You don't need to medicate whatever it was medicating. Thank you. So can you tell us a little bit about the before and after?
It's interesting because before I really started to quit, I don't know if I would have ever really connected this to my recovery journey until looking back at it. but I had this like deep sense of insecurity in my relationships. I had a self-loathing, a resentment or a contempt built up for myself. Even at times, there was a subtle underlying sense of unworthiness when I was relating to God. And there was always this sense that I'm not doing enough, or I'm not enough, or I'm not worthy enough, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not safe to trust somebody else to love me. I think when I started to kind of unpack this in counseling and in my own recovery journey as well, it started to point back to when I was younger. My parents are wonderful, but early on, they're still figuring a lot of stuff out. I kind of entered into their relationship before they were married, and they were still like in process as I was growing up, if you know what I mean. And what I subtly kind of gathered in my own upbringing, I guess, and no one told me this, but I just came to this conclusion that if anyone's going to take care of me, it's going to be me. It's not going to be them. That's not a conclusion a child should really ever have to get to. So many times I found myself as like a 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old counseling my parents through their issues. And I'm like, I shouldn't have to like put my issues on hold as a kid so that I could help my parents work their issues out. I think subtly I shut off my sense of being needy, relying on other people to love me and to care for me and to nurture me. And there was this subtle implication in all of that, like, oh, you're on your own to figure that stuff out. And so I did with porn. And obviously that was a very destructive relationship that, that I thought at first it felt really good and exciting and I was in control and I could click on it whenever I wanted and it was always there for me. The other symptoms of that same exact thing was like, oh, around other people, I'm not really secure because unless I perform, unless I show how worthy I am, I'm not really that acceptable. Who I am isn't good enough. I got to show that I'm good enough. So it was always that constant sense of trying to like prove my value to other people, earn my sense of validation with God. But even just when it came to work, like there was always a regular source of obvious validation. You do something, you see the result. You put in the effort, you see the outcome. But when it came to my own relationships with God, with myself, with my wife, with some of the most significant relationships, I never believed that I was like just worthy of being loved. And so there was always a sense of performance. And inevitably with that comes the insecurity on the flip side that I was like, if I just was needy, I don't think that this would work out very well. So I would shut that down. And at the end of the day, I just got so exhausted with that, especially when it comes to being in a position where as a dad, as a pastor, as a husband, the consequence for failure becomes higher and higher and higher. I felt like I had to hide more and more and more. And it just became so exhausting to live this way, not confident, insecure, just constantly trying to perform. I just got so worn out until the point where I broke and I just didn't try to hide it anymore. And I got caught in some ways. I love how Switchfoot has a song called The Beautiful Letdown, but it really describes that. It was such a devastating, embarrassing, shaming event. Yet at the same moment I look back and I go, it was exactly what I needed because I needed to wake up to the reality that you're not trying to run from people's love and affirmation. Really, that's what you need. Yes, people let you down in the past, but people are also part of the process of healing. Through that, I began to rely on the community. I began to, in a weird way, express my neediness and learn how to ask others or lean on others or rely on others for love. As I began that heart healing, and certainly there was behaviors to adjust, absolutely. There was blockers to put in place. There was boundaries to respect, but that only set up the pathway to really get at what was truly under the surface, which the root cause of where my heart was truly wounded. As that began to heal, and I had systems and patterns put in my life to move me towards health and move me away from addiction, that's when I began to discover that, oh, this thing that it was trying to solve this whole time, I don't need it to solve anymore because I'm healing.
I'm curious, Brant, about your experience with seeing other people as they come from being just soaked in porn to a life that's free from porn. What is that difference like?
Absolutely. I was just on a run this morning with one of the guys in my program who he's almost ready to graduate. And what's crazy to me is the kinds of things that he used to act like or say or just even pursue for the sense of external validation were all symptoms of the same thing that porn was a symptom of. For him, as he began to not just like clean house and get porn out of his life and set up boundaries, but then really heal on the inside, what I discovered is he actually starting to take authority in his relationships, starting with his relationship with himself. He's like, rather than home be this like retreat where, okay, now I can get all my fantasies fulfilled. No one's here to tell me what to do. I can just be careless about all this. Now he's starting to rebuild his home. He's starting to think about, I want to use this as a space to host other people and minister to other people. He's starting to lead in his accountability group. He's starting to show up at church. And it was funny. He was like, Brant, ever since you gave me a notebook, right now what I'm trying to do is send a branded notebook from Revive to all the guys in the program when they start. He's like, ever since you gave me that notebook, I'm like obsessed with journaling. Most dudes don't like journaling, including him. It was just like, as we started to kind of learn some of those delayed gratification practices, he started to apply it to other areas of his life. He's like, it's almost like you're preaching better now that he's taking notes and stuff, which is hilarious because I'm not that different from when he started in the program. It's amazing how much of life begins to seem negotiable from a healthy person's point of view, to be really like, I'm not a victim of what this life is. I'm a conqueror. I'm a strong person. I'm worthy of love and relationship. Before, there was a few things with some certain diagnoses that he has that he was using as a victim mindset, where he's like, I don't even care about that. I think I'm ready to pursue a relationship. I think I'm ready to step up and talk to my family about Jesus because they're not really believers. And there's a sense of confidence and authority that he's moving through life with that you just go, the only thing that's really changed lately is you're not using porn as a crutch to medicate a deeper wound. You're actually healing it and feeling more alive than ever before.
That's beautiful. Based on the latest research, we know that a lot of people in the church struggle with porn. What do you want the church to know about porn and porn recovery?
It's really interesting because every Sunday I get up and I preach to a congregation, and I don't think they all realize that the majority of the people sitting around them either currently struggle with porn or are directly in an immediate relationship with somebody who does, whether they're married or it's in their family or something like that. One of the pieces of research that I read from Barna, which is a Christian data collection agency, 84% of porn users reporting having nobody in their lives who are helping them avoid porn. Specifically, 82% of Christian porn users. Among men, it's somewhere around 8 out of 10. Among women in the church, it's somewhere around 5 or 6 out of 10 are currently on a at least once a month pattern of using porn. The majority of those people, which by the way, that is already a majority. The majority of people that I preach to every Sunday, this is a current thing. And the majority of those people who are struggling with it say no one's helping them with it. I think what I would love people to realize in the church is that way more than just you is dealing with this. It just no one wants to be the first one to speak up. Reality is a lot of people are really, really struggling with this and don't know where to go. They don't know how to ask for help. They don't know how to ask for love. They don't know who to reach out to. And what that first step is, because the barrier of shame is so high. One of the things I try to tell people is like, man, shame is just a lie. And it's one of the tactics of the enemy. Like he loves to like keep people silent and in the dark. The longer you stay in the dark, the stronger addiction has a hold on you. The barrier between going from the dark to the light and confessing and opening up and asking for help and actually finding freedom, the barrier is often this perceived sense of shame. And shame is just a mirage. It's a lie. It's a facade. It's a hologram. It looks real. The reality is most people would say about somebody else, I'm so inspired by people who courageously step up and admit where they're at and ask for help. Most people, the majority of people would look around and go, if someone stood up and asked for help and said, I'm inspired. There's a guy in my program who a few months ago was just starting off. And so he confessed to his life group at his church. And he was scared that everybody's going to disown me. He already lives by himself. I'm going to be just relegated to a single alone life for the rest of my life. What he discovered as he confessed this to the people in his life group, they all came around him, started praying for him, were encouraging to him. And they were like, I'm proud of you for stepping forward and moving in this direction. I don't think people realize how much affirmation there is and how much inspiration there is simply for the people who are courageous enough to stand up and go, I've got an issue, I need help, but I'm actually going to start seeking help and doing something about it.
I second that. I have never once heard of somebody confessing that they have a problem and asking for help and being shamed. I've never once heard of that happening. Always people rally around and they look up to you more for having courage to just be real.
Yeah.
Let's see, what have you learned about porn addiction based on your personal recovery process and your experience coaching with other men?
There's 5 stages that lead into it. There could be more, it's just how I would break it down. And then there's 5 stages that lead out of it. A lot of times it's a slippery slope because it starts with exposure. Kids get exposed to this stuff now at age 5 or 4. It's insane how early porn exposure is hitting the mass market. If it's going to lead to other stages, exposure happens at a very young age. I think the average age is somewhere between 8 and 11, but there are cases, a lot of cases of people being exposed even earlier. So the vast majority of people who struggle with an unwanted addiction to porn were exposed at a young age. It's covered in shame. It's like, I don't want to tell anybody. So, I don't know why, but somehow inherently I know this isn't good. I don't know who to talk to, because a lot of times what happens is when a kid mentions something, the first initial reaction from mom or dad or the parent figure is fairly reactionary. It's very extreme, or at least like intense. So they go, oh, I'm never doing that again. And some people go, I'm never going to look again, and they get scared out of it. And other people like, I'm never going to talk to somebody about it again. Then that makes it so much easier to go to stage 2, which is habituation. So exposure, then habituation, which is when the unwanted behaviors become habit. So once you're exposed to it, you begin to like the way it makes you feel, or stop feeling it. Maybe you like the way it makes you numb, and you begin to create habits in your life around how you consume it and how you're exposed to it. From there, it leads to addiction. It's funny online, you probably get this as well. You'll get these trolls online who will be like teasing you for saying someone could be addicted to porn. Truth of the matter is, Dr. Anna Lemke defines addiction. She's a neurobiologist at Stanford. She defines addiction as the continued use of substance or behavior, such as consuming porn, despite the negative consequences to self or others. Like, that would be how you define addiction. In other words, when you continue to return to the behavior despite the repeated experience of those side effects, the negative side effects, that's a clear sign of addiction. So it's like it became a habit and now you're trying to stop and you can't. Okay, maybe it's time to realize that it's an addiction. From there, what usually starts to happen, because this is the stage where people are like, I don't really want to ask for help. It's probably not as bad as it could be. So usually they wait until they hit rock bottom. From addiction, it turns into escalation, which is stage 4. That stage, porn addiction, it kind of escalates into other behaviors. Purchasing memberships, like OnlyFans, for example, or buying sex from prostitutes or violent sexual acts, or doing business with sex traffickers and so on and so forth. A lot of men on the sex offender registry, for example, when they're asked about what happened in their life and how they ended up at this point, they say that it started at an early age exposure to porn. Almost every single one of them will say that. It's not to say that everyone who's exposed at an early age will become a sex offender, but it is to say that after addiction, unless you get help and quit porn, it escalates because of the way that your brain increases dependency. The neuroplasticity of your brain will start to become more and more okay with the high spikes of dopamine that you need more to feel the same way. So you escalate the behavior to get the same rush of dopamine. That can get very dangerous very fast, which leads to stage 5, which is called destruction. At this stage, you just seize the destruction of the life that's in front of you, the destruction of your relationships, the destruction of your moral code, where you just make decisions poorly, the destruction of your soul and your being, and everything that you really thought you were put on earth here to accomplish, you begin to compromise and give it away for the next hit. That's really when you start to hit rock bottom, that the earthly consequences start to just catch up to you. And if you want to avoid that, now is the time to start taking it seriously. So a lot of times what people will try to do is they'll be like, and I see this a lot of times, the analogy we use on our pastoral staff is like, a lot of times the guys will come to us after the house has burnt down, their wife has divorced them, or at least threatening to, their kids are leaving, they stopped respecting them, like they got fired from their job because they got caught and whatever. After the house is burnt down, they're like, hey, fire department, come here and turn the jets on and try to put this fire out. And I'm like, I think it's time to rebuild the house. So a lot of times guys will finally be like, oh, okay, and women too, is like, okay, I'm finally ready to do what it takes. It might be too little too late, but they're finally ready to do what it takes. So they start with the white knuckle method. They're trying to hold on to their freedom so tightly that their knuckles are turning white, but it's exhausting. They're trying really hard and they just eventually give up. Or the simplistic method, like I mentioned earlier, it's like, let me try an internet filter. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, let me stop doing that and try doing a Bible reading plan. That didn't change anything for me. Well, let me stop doing that and maybe start fasting or confessing to somebody. But like I do my one single thing, and on its own, it's not enough to help me overcome. Because of the shame, there's the isolated method. You're all alone in this, trying to get free from addiction while you're isolated from community. So you do what you can on your own, and for a number of different reasons, maybe you're isolated, but whether it's because there's no one you can turn to or because you're scared of what people might think, there's no one there to encourage you or challenge you. Without a supportive community, your efforts just don't really go that far. Maybe there's the childish method, which is what I call people who don't take ownership for their actions. Like children, they do an action and they don't always have to bear the consequence for the action. Or they'll do an action and get over rewarded for that action. If it's a good thing and they get a disproportionate amount of reward for that action, or if it's a bad thing and they get a disproportionate amount of consequence, almost none at all. Like children get that. But when adults do something, they take ownership for their actions. Someone's been like living with a porn addiction, but not really wanting to take ownership over their responsibility in it, whether to go to counseling or to seek help, they enter into a program to do what it takes. That's what I would say is acting like a child. You're never going to have a confident life that way. What happened to you maybe early on in your life to give you that sense that like, I need to hide from others and not rely on others and seek love from others. That probably wasn't your fault, but it is now your responsibility to overcome. When you just play the victim card every time you act out, it's childish. It's a blanket fort that you're hiding in, but it's got no shelter at all. The other one I think about is like the scattered method, and people are like very willing. Maybe they're like recognizing that their behavior is escalating or they're even getting close to destruction. And they're like, I don't know where to start. I have no idea what to do, but I'm going to try something. So they just like randomly try stuff. And obviously nothing seems to be working in that direction because they're just trying whatever you feel like or hear from others, but you're not seeing any progress because you're not doing something that's proven to work. This is kind of where Revive comes in, where what we've discovered is there's, at least the way that I would describe it is there's 5 stages of recovery. The first one I call recalibrating your mindset. Phase 1 is that where the goal actually isn't just to get porn out of your life and then keep your life the same as it has been. The goal, the first phase, is actually just getting acclimated to the journey ahead of you and all that it's going to involve. It's not just about quitting porn. It's about growing into the kind of person that you were made to be, a person who doesn't actually need porn in their life anymore. And a journey like that will be radically different from what you've probably experienced before. So we have a whole set of modules that are just about helping you to recalibrate your mindset. So then we get to phase 2, which is where we start helping you remove destructive patterns. And I think this is what people typically envision porn recovery is just this phase where it's like, yeah, we're gonna remove those destructive patterns that keep you coming back to porn or masturbation. We're gonna cut out certain things. We're gonna set up filters. We're gonna establish boundaries. We're gonna go from motivation to motion, right? When we transform attitude into action, but you need a sacrifice for what you ultimately want. Otherwise, what you ultimately want will be the sacrifice. So, okay, let's start to do things that are necessary. Like what Jesus says in Matthew 5, where it's like, if your eye causes you to sin, gouge it out. If your hand causes you to sin, cut it off. Take extreme act to remove the things that make it easier for you to access porn and masturbate again. But we don't stop there. Phase 3 is when we go, okay, now let's start replacing those things that you just removed. Let's replace them with life-giving habits. So that's about, okay, those unhelpful systems in your life, let's put healthy habits in their place. Let's design a new lifestyle that actually leads to greater health. Honestly, it's supposed to feel uncomfortable. This is where life change starts to happen. And you're going to start to feel certain emotions, deeper issues are going to rise to the surface, because between the removal of instant gratification from porn, from social media, from video games, from junk food, from all these things where it's like, let's remove instant gratification as much as we can in a reasonable way from our lives, and then replace it with delayed gratification things like healthy eating and exercising and getting involved in relationships that are life-giving and so on and so forth. The delayed gratification has not been gratifying yet, right? It's like, it's delayed. So between the removal of the instant gratification and the eventual gratification that comes from these healthy habits, there's no gratification at times in between. And that's when those deeper issues start to rise to the surface. And we try to notice these issues, and point towards the community and point towards God in phase 4, where we talk about redeeming our wounded heart. Because again, porn is not the real problem. In fact, it's a solution. It's just a really bad solution to your deeper wounds. And so by the time you remove those destructive patterns and replace them with good ones, you're starting to feel the pain or the discomfort that you've been trying to medicate with porn the whole time. That's when we go, okay, let's discover what's going on and start healing the root problem or problems. That's phase 4. And then when we get to phase 5, it's about renewing our life. So like by this point, you've gone through the phases of a lot of what you hadn't had before on your recovery journey. And now it's time to put all those pieces together and map out what the rest of your life is going to look like. Okay, the goal is not the removal of the problem. The goal is the renewal of the life, and the problem just doesn't serve it anymore. So we map out a plan for who we're going to become and what will be true of us and the habits that we're going to need to get there and who's going to help us along the way. So that's what we've seen to be truly helpful for helping people recover. And frankly, this applies to a lot of other addictions or habits or hang-ups in life. We just happen to apply it straight to porn addiction, but recalibrating our mindset, removing destructive patterns, replacing them with life-giving habits, redeeming our wounded heart, and then renewing our life. As people are committed to that process, what they begin to discover is they're going from insecurity and loneliness and isolation and addiction to confidence and fulfillment and just looking forward to what everything about their life is.
That's beautiful. You're making me think. I've walked with a few people through recovering from alcohol, or at least I've seen them go through it. The thing they want to do first is like, I want to keep my life just the way it is. I don't want to put a lot of effort in, just make me stop drinking. That doesn't work.
No.
In the alcohol, that program they go through, Alcoholics Anonymous, they have to address every dysfunctional thing going on in their life. When they come out the other side, if they do it, they're a new person, a way better person, a happier person. They've made amends with people who they've hurt, and they've become willing to change whatever it takes. It's not just some shallow thing. It's the same with porn recovery. It's not just some thing. I also like what you said about getting rid of the instant gratification things.
Yeah.
That's been something I've personally had to do. I was feeling the spirit just telling me over and over for years, you need to stop video games. I'm not saying there's anything immoral about video in general, but for me, I think that instant gratification was not serving me well. When I finally did get ticked off enough, fine, I'm done. And I am. It's been 5 years. No, 7. It's been 7 years. I haven't video games. And it felt like chopping off a hand.
Oh, yeah.
My life has been so much better. I've got all that time back. I'm more focused. And it's one of those things I had to do in order to, like you say, renewing your life. I kind of feel, Brant, like a porn addiction, it is a massive problem that can ruin everything, but there's also a beautiful opportunity in there. It can be the catalyst that fuels you into becoming a much better person than you would have been had you not made the decision to put it all on the line.
Yeah, I think it's so true, because when you're addicted to video games, and for me, it was genuinely an addiction. I would start 8 p.m. at night and it's 3 a.m. in the morning by the time I'm done. And I'm I didn't feel like I had power to stop. I was just obsessing. I think similarly, junk food was a similar thing where it's I'm on my way home to eat dinner, but I've got $5. I feel almost compelled to drive through McDonald's. It was I had power over myself, but I felt like I was so influenced by the craving that I couldn't say no to myself because I didn't feel comfortable. But when you do that, you're just okay, but I'm not going to change my life because I went to McDonald's on the way home from dinner. But when you start to lose significant chunks of your relationship because of porn addiction, now all of a sudden you go, oh, I need to change something. Yeah. I tell people this is going to be life-changing, not because I'm all that inspiring, but because I'm going to change your life. Your life won't change unless you change your life. If you truly want a change, nothing's going to change if nothing's going to change. You need some level of significant catalyst to say, no, you have to change. And here's why. And that's actually one of the first things we discover is what is your why? What is your motivating, compelling reason for going in this direction? And let's keep that at the forefront of what we're aiming at, so that even when the motivation fades, you've got something as a North Star for who you're trying to become and what relationships are going to be impacted by this and the purpose that you have on your life. Who has God called you to be and what has he called you to do? You need a significant, compelling why. And if your why doesn't make you cry, it's not strong enough. It's not something that's emotionally connected to the deepest core of what you long for in life. Oftentimes, porn is addiction, is the wound it's trying to medicate, is an incredible teacher about what actually is truly significant and mattering the most to you. You've been trying to medicate a wound in that direction, but if you can understand what the wound is and why it feels like a wound, all of a sudden you can understand what it is you were made for and what your heart beats for and what you're passionate about and what you yearn for truly deep on the inside. That actually becomes incredibly clarifying for what your purpose is. I think it's really interesting because the porn addiction leaves crumbs back to that. So if you can start working your way towards like, what is this trying to solve for me? Why am I truly like compelled to keep coming back to it? It's not just because you're a bad person. It's because you're trying to medicate something that truly is a burning fire inside of you. It's a passion. It was purpose. I think the enemy loves to attack you directly at the point at which you could be the strongest. You are most laden with purpose. He tries to take you down right there. Frankly, I think that that's a weak spot in his strategy, because then if you can actually discover, oh my gosh, why am I truly trying to medicate a wounded? What feels wounded about it? You're like, oh man, I truly am made for something here. I truly am missing this. If I have this, imagine how much more powerful I could be, how much more incredible this life could be, and fulfilling and confident when I'm like moving in purpose. And I totally agree with you. The negative consequences of my porn addiction caused me to take a serious look at healing holistically. And that is one of the most incredible things that could have happened to me because of how much power and purpose I discovered in that.
That's beautiful. Man, you're touching on some of the reasons I started this in the first place. I believe that each one of us, we have something great in us, and we're never going to get it. We're never going to express that or become that if we're saddled with a stupid addiction or compulsion or habit or whatever you want to call it. It also made me think, I talked to a psychologist once who said, like, porn doesn't lead to wearing an ankle bracelet for everybody.
Yeah.
It doesn't lead to divorce every time, although it certainly does in a lot of cases. It can be horrendously bad. It can absolutely destroy your life, but some people seem to not be completely crushed. Tell me about that. He said, you're right, it doesn't lead to the worst case every time, but every time it does lead to you living less of a life than you would have otherwise. Like if your marriage could have been a 10, 7 is the best you're going to expect if you're watching porn.
Yeah.
If your job could have been a 10, you're not going to reach that. It will put a damper on you for sure, and it may destroy you completely.
Yep.
Brant, I had to ask, can you tell us briefly where Ever Accountable fits in to your porn recovery process and how you recommend your clients to use it?
Yeah, no, I forget how I discovered Ever Accountable, but ever since I started using it, I've loved it. For me, I go, this has to mean something to me. Accountability has to truly be emotional and motivating for me. It goes straight to my pastor, who's my boss. So we have 3 campuses at our church, and I'm the pastor of one of them, and our lead pastor gets my reports. My wife gets my reports. If anything shows up, serious conversations are being had. To me, I'm like, man, if nothing shows up, man, they're seeing and they're celebrating and they're checking in on me and they're loving me and celebrating that for me, which is the people I need the most to be like on my side. Should I ever slip up? It's like, I don't ever want to do that. Like serious consequences are on the other side of that. It just raises the stakes for me. For me, it's been incredibly helpful for them to constantly get the reports. And I love one of the things that Ever Accountable does is like when there's a bad report come through or even a questionable one, it's like, hey, because I receive reports for some other people as well. So when theirs comes through, it's like, hey, so-and-so, might need you to reach out to them. And I can just hit reply to that email and it replies to the person, not to the program sending the email. It immediately sets it up so that the connection between me and the person I'm in an accountability relationship with is just seamless. Then on the other end of it, where it's like, if there's a good report, it's like, hey, so-and-so is doing great. You should reach out to them and tell them that they did a good job. Because accountability is not about just showing up week after week and saying, here's where I sinned. Okay, try to do better next week. All right. And I show up again. And that's confession. That's not accountability. Accountability is saying, here's the person I'm trying to become, and I need you to help me to become that. So every week, I'm going to give an account for what I'm doing to become that person. And when I do well, you're here to celebrate that with me. When I'm doing poorly, you're here to help me recalibrate and get back on track. Because the goal is not just habit removal. The goal is life transformation. I'm trying to become somebody who doesn't need this anymore, doesn't need porn anymore. I'm trying to become somebody whose life is so confident and filled with purpose and living for that. I have significant, meaningful relationships in my life that I give an account to. It's not like I'm just passively trying to skirt around things until they've asked me the hard question and then I can't lie to them. No, I'm not waiting for them to check in on me. No, I'm saying every week I'm going to give an account. Ever Accountable facilitates that really beautifully.
Thank you. Brant, thank you for sharing your experience and insights to help others. Do you have anything else you want people to know in parting?
I just think freedom is much closer than you might realize. And it's also much more holistic than you might realize. That's why I think it's totally worth investing in something that involves your whole life. It's worth asking for help and saying, where I'm invested, that's where I'm invested. When you pay attention to what I've discovered. I'm gonna say, what is the most important thing for me to get right? How about, I don't know, my life and my heart and my freedom? Man, is that worth it? On the other end of that, when you're waking up excited about every single day, when you're filled with purpose, when you're not laden and pulled back by shame, when people see who you truly are on the inside and you're not having to be exhausted, like holding up this mask anymore, like putting on a facade, but really you're struggling and your relationships are fueling you and fulfilling you. Now, all of a sudden, you're not only not chained to an addiction, but you're just motivated by purpose and moving forward in confidence. That's a life that's so worth it. What kind of a price tag do you put on that? I haven't found the number yet.
So if we have anybody listening or watching after the fact, they are ready to go. What do they do?
So if you go to reviveyourlife.net, our website will show how to get connected with our Revive Your Life program. From there, you'll set up a discovery call with me. And once you set up a discovery call, we'll see if this program is the right fit for you. If you're the right fit for the program, then it's go time. I would encourage anyone to check it out and really consider that. I think it's worth it to change your life because there's life on the other end of it.
Oh yeah, it makes your life better. Quitting porn makes your life better in every way. And think along the way, all these things that are holding us back, becoming that best version of ourselves. Brant, thank you so much. I really appreciate this.
Thanks, Tyler. It's been my pleasure, and I've been honored to chat with you.